Heavyweight boxing fans, what's the deal? All right, man. So Alexander Povetkin and Christian Hammer will indeed be the final eliminator for Joseph Parker for that WBO title. Christian Hammer is rated number 1 by the WBO, and you have Povetkin sitting at number 6 by the WBO. So, usually when I make Povetkin videos, people in the comment section, well, there's some people that want to see him fight again. Some people say, hey, why are you making these videos about him? So on and so forth. He doesn't deserve it. And what I was saying, I keep telling you guys, man, that's fine and dandy. I can understand that point of view. But at the same time, you're going to see him fight for a title, or at least be in a position where he's in a final eliminator, because he's moving up these rankings since he's been allowed back in the rankings. He's not in the WBC yet, but he is in, he's allowed to fight sanctioned fights for the WBO, WBA, and the IBF. He's going to move up the ranks, man. I'm telling you, and sooner or later, you're going to see him in a mandatory type of fight. And here we have it. I was right. I was right about this one. You know what I mean? So, and they're talking about they're going to try to lure Joseph Parker to Russia in July for the fight. So, I'm curious to see how Parker and his team handles that, because they have made it known that they're willing to travel. They talked about going to the UK. They were trying to get the fight with Kayotaro Fujimoto in Japan, but Fujimoto and his side, they couldn't, bring the money together for them to go out there and fight. They were trying to get that fight in just before year's end in December. It fell through. They're not going to do it. So curious to see, and they're talking about getting Parker in there. I believe, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they were saying they want to get him in there February. I think that's what they said. That's not written in stone. I have to check that again, but I think they said February. But regardless of that, though, I expect Parker to take a fight, and then in the early part of next year, and then going into the summer, if Povetkin's going to be favored against Christian Hammer. Hammer has kind of revived his career a little bit with the win over Erkin Tepper and his win over David Price. He also snuck another victory in there. I forgot against who. And then the tail end of last year, he had an impressive knockout. Not that it was against a world beater. It was an old Michael Sprout, but it was an impressive knockout, the way he knocked him out cold. So it's kind of revived his career a little bit, but I'm going to go with Povetkin in that fight. But I'm curious to see how Parker and his team approach this situation, being that Povetkin has had the 2 drug testing issues. I don't want to go into if it was conspiracy. Like, whatever side of the fence you're on, that's fine. I'm not here to change anybody's mind about that. But the facts are, fights were interrupted by his drug test. All right, so that is a fact. All right. But anyways, will they be? I'm curious to see if Parker and his team, are they going to be hell bent on him getting or being behind Povetkin getting strict drug testing. Just what is their approach going to be? Because we've seen how Wilder's approach was. We've seen how Stavern approach was regarding Povetkin when the test situation happened. And I know Stavern had his own test issue leading into the Povetkin fight. They still were going to sanction the fight. They just gave Stavern a fine. They gave him a fine, and he had to do some sort of community service talking to younger athletes about the negatives, I think, of taking drugs in sports or whatever. But then Stavern opted to not fight once Povetkin tested positive. I forgot for which drug, man. Was it Ostrin? Clenbuterol? It was one of those. Somebody leave it in the comment section, man. I forgot, or I can't remember at this moment. But just curious to see how Parker and his team, they approach that situation. And are they going to be willing to go to Russia? Now, you guys are, his team already put it out there that they're willing to travel. So if this is a situation where Povetkin is the mandatory, will they have that same outlook as wanting to travel to Russia? Povetkin in his last fight against Rodinko, he dominated the fight. The fight before that against Duhaupas, he knocked Duhaupas out cold. Duhaupas took that fight on short notice, wasn't ready at all. The dude had on damn tennis shoes, for all crying out. The dude had on basketball shoes, for crying out loud, going to that damn fight, man. And he wasn't ready to fight, man. It was evident by just his physique. Not that he is a Marvel comic book character type of physique, but he was just not in shape. he actually was training for a fight he had with Carlos Takam. It was going to be late January. Duhaupas had that WBC silver title, and he ended up taking a Povetkin fight way too early. He wasn't ready to go, man. He still had like another month and a half of training he wanted to do for Takam, you know what I mean? Let alone getting there with Povetkin on short notice, literally like, what, 2 days notice or something, a day's notice or something. So, but regardless of that though, man, I think it's an interesting style matchup, Povetkin and Parker. Interesting style matchup, man. I think Parker has got a lot of, his 2 fights with Takam and his fights with Ruiz, as far as those fights go, not his last 2 fights, but those fights, I think, prepare him for a guy like Povetkin. Now, you can argue if Povetkin is better than those guys. Well, shit, Povetkin did beat Takam, right? You know what I mean? And but what I'm saying is those type of styles, guys are going to come in there aggressive on Parker. And they were close fights. They were close fights, but he still got that experience, though. You know what I mean? I think Takam and Ruiz will do some of what Povetkin likes to do, come forward, throw heavy shots. You can probably argue that Povetkin's the harder puncher of all the 3 fighters. That's arguable, you know what I mean? So I think Parker, like I said, he's got some experience against that type of style. So it'd be a lot different than the Hughie Fury fight. I know that for sure. And the Razvan Kajanu fight. But what do you guys think about this, man? What do you think about Povetkin being in line to, he beats Hammer, he's going to get a title shot. And they're talking about having it in Russia in July. I think it's going to be hard for Parker to turn down hard to turn down going to Russia. He's going to get some good money for this fight. I'm just curious to see if they're going to try to say, no, let's have it in the UK, or let's have it here, let's have it there. You know, will they just be willing to outright go to Russia? You know, so gotta wait and see what happens, though, man. Christian Hammer is somebody that Povetkin cannot just sleep on completely. I mean, he did go 12 rounds with Radenko. Radenko's a tough dude, though, but he did go 12 with him. Shit, Radenko gave Brown a little bit trouble, and he actually won a round or 2 against Hughie Fury that I can remember. So he isn't just a complete, total bum, Radenko, but I think Hammer, I would rate Hammer higher than Radenko, and I think he brings more to the table offensively, and I think right now he's just on a good winning streak for his career, man. So I think he will come in very confident for this fight. Now, I've seen him get knocked out. You know what I mean? I've seen him lose fights, Fury and Marius Walk. So I'm not saying he's this undefeated guy, but as of late, as of recent, he's on a winning streak. Seems pretty confident. Rated #1 by the WBO, so he is in position for this fight, man. So you guys let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm gone.